Hey Tricky Buddies, thanks for joining me again today. A lot of my yoga students are experiencing problems in the low back, and they're reporting that it's mostly on one side. So this is the issue that I deal with the most, and there's a really simple fix for it. First, I want to explain what's happening, the anatomy that's involved as far as I know it, ways to fix it with yoga and sleep position. So what's being reported to me is that there's pain on one side of the low back, right in that SI joint, the sacroiliac joint where the spine and hips come together and make that upside down T shape. And what will happen is the QL muscles, which are on either side of your spine, you'll feel them from the bottom of your rib to the top of your hip, that sort of area. And they will get short from some cause. And it will pull the sacrum up and forward. It's called an upslip in the sacrum. And what happens when there is an upslip in the sacrum, it will push up and forward, and it will create the effect like you have one leg shorter than the other. So then you start walking with more pressure on that side, and you tend to start pulling your shoulders back to adjust for that, and that makes that QL muscle even shorter. There can also be some fascial stuff that's related to it, or it might be the medius or the piriformis that's involved, but generally the QL muscle is what I've been hearing about the most. On the other side of this muscle are your hip flexors, and so this is your psoas major, psoas minor, and the just iliopsoas is the uniform or umbrella term for it. So when these hip flexors are nice and long, you keep your shoulders over your hips when you walk, and then your body weight's in your belly, it's in your core where it's supposed to be. When these hip flexors get short due to sitting for long periods, it tilts your pelvis behind you, so you're hinged at your hips, your chest is out ahead of your hips, and now your body weight is in your low back. Some people also will have problems because they sort of sit like this. They don't have good lumbar support, and so this just shortens the QL muscles. So typing like this for 8 hours a day can result in standing up and feeling like you hobble along the first few steps. So this muscle back here has a direct relationship with this set of muscles right here. One of the best things you can do for an upslip in the sacrum is lizard pose. So for lizard, you come onto all fours, and so we'll assume that it's your right side that is bothersome to you. So if it's your right side that's bothersome, we'll take your left foot forward, flat to the floor, and we'll walk the hands and the hips forward. So we want this right hip to be out in front of your right knee. If your right hip is over your right knee, nothing's going to happen. So you really want to drop the hips down and forward and feel that stretch on the front of the set of muscles known as the iliopsoas. You can be here, you can be here, if you need to, be on the gorilla fists. Some people like to take the hands to the hips, they can just dig in a little deeper. For me, I find that that compounds the problem because it's shortening that set of muscles on the back. So I like to just hold lizard. 1 minute is the minimum. 3 minutes is better, 7 minutes is best. Set yourself a timer. You can do this while you're watching the news in the evening. It's a really simple fix. This will make a huge difference in your low back pain, even though you're approaching it from the front of the body. If you like to work directly with the quadratus lumborum muscles, here's the thing to do. Take your feet out wide-ish, doesn't have to be very wide. But since, again, we're assuming that your problem is on your right side, we'll go to your opposite side. So my hands are on either side of my left knee. And I'll roll my forehead down in the general direction of my left knee. And I'll feel the stretch on the right side of my spine from the bottom of my rib to the top of my hip. If you can go deeper, that's great. Sometimes with this stretch, people end up trying to take their hip with them, and that will take the stretch away from where we're trying to localize it. So make sure you keep that opposite sitting bone down on the floor. So right in there. Another way to help loosen up this set of muscles is to, before you get out of bed in the morning, just rotate, and you'll feel all of those connections, the origin and the insertion of the QLs starting to stretch. Recall that your QL muscles make this motion. They pull your shoulders over your hips, and especially when you twist. So we use these muscles to get up out of bed. We use these muscles to get out of the car, in some cases to get up off the toilet or to turn a corner onto the stairs. Tying a shoelace, for example, would use these QL muscles. So it's a relatively small muscle, but it has to torque the entirety of your upper body weight. And if you don't have good hip flexors as backup, then you're sunk. What causes tight QLs? Well, I've already explained that having tight hip flexors usually equals tight spinal extensors. So if you have a desk job and you sit a lot and you don't have good lumbar support, you tend to stick your hips out behind you, that is one cause. But what I find the most from my yoga students anyway, is it's their sleep position. And I'll ask them, are you a side sleeper? Are you a belly sleeper? Or a back sleeper? And they'll often tell me they're a side sleeper. And then I ask them to show me, and it turns out they're a side stomach sleeper. So they will lie in bed, and they won't be lying on their side with their knees stacked. They will kick their foot out across and be kind of on the stomach. And that's the kiss of death for your QL muscles. Your poor little sacrum is just getting yanked to death back here. So if this is the only way you can sleep, here's another way to correct this issue. Put a pillow under the knee that you want to kick out in front of you. And it helps not have this forward pull on the sacrum. It sort of holds your pelvis in alignment. Or if it is comfortable for you to be a true side sleeper, the same thing. Put the pillow between the knees, and this helps to hold the pelvis upright instead of dipping forward. And it will make a huge difference in how you feel when you wake up in the morning. So I hope all of this was helpful to you. Let me know over at the Champagne and Chakras Facebook page if you have some other ways to correct an upslip in the sacrum, or if you have further explanation about how and why this happens or how it can be corrected. Let me know over at the Champagne and Chakras Facebook page, and we would love to hear from you. I hope this was helpful. Rock out with your core cow.